Yep.
Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Kaylee.
Ready to get started with questions?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
All right, we'll start with John Morrow.
Good morning, Sean. Just in a string of uplifting, developments, how can you share what the emotional joy you must have experienced in hearing from Damar, for the first time, over Zoom, and how truly remarkable his recovery's been?
Yeah, probably won't be able to do it justice, honestly, with the words. Amazing, touching to see Damar, number one, through my own eyes. I know that's something I've been looking forward to, kind of needing to see, I guess. I hate to say it that way. It sounds bad, but and to watch the reaction in the room with the players and the staff and the team. They didn't know that we were going to do that, and wanted to make sure that was actually going to be able to happen with Damar's medical schedule there, and to be able to. When I said that we had a treat in store, it was just you could see the look on their eye in anticipation of what was probably coming, and then to get the Zoom, and when he came on the screen, and Tabani, our assistant trainer, has done a phenomenal job out there, helping facilitate that this morning as well, and to see the players' reaction, they stood up right away and clapped for him, and yelled some things to him, and it was a pretty cool exchange for a few seconds there.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, Sean, good morning again. Just to follow up on that, I'm reading the tweet, the announcement that you guys sent out, that he had said, "Love you, boys." Did he say anything else? Can you paint the picture of what was said and what else may have been exchanged there between your team and him?
Yeah, Adam. So, and I can't remember the order of things, and it was not a long interaction, as you'd imagine, with his situation. But he made hand signals, hand gestures, right? The thing that makes me laugh is he did this to the guys, right away. And he flexed on them, I guess. And he's just got some staple things that they know him for and that he does. And he made the heart symbol probably more than anything. And then he gave him a thumbs up. So, and then somewhere in the midst of that, and it was a little bit hard to hear, but he, as you'd imagine, he said, "I love you, boys." And of course, I think I got the guys. So,
thank you, Sean.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, we heard you speak about Denny last night. We've heard you speak about Tabani this morning. How important has the training staff, the medical staff as a whole been throughout this process? I mean, they're the unsung heroes usually of the year, making sure the entire team is ready to go. There's been a lot of injuries this year. So this season and really just over the last 3 days, how important have they been to the entire team and to Damar as well?
Oh, they've been incredible. Maddie, I appreciate you, following up on that point. I mean, they've just been incredible, and there's such a big, a wide net for all that have been kind of that fall under that medical team term, I guess, right? With the normal day-to-day training staff that is here, which Denny and Tabani are a part of, led by Nate Bresky. And as I mentioned Nate earlier, Nate, along with Brandon, just got back yesterday from Cincinnati, as they had been out there the entire time, and Tabani remains out there. And then our local team doctors based out of Buffalo and their assistants in this, and obviously the doctors that I mentioned yesterday out there, the staff. It's just so many people involved, even just from a medical standpoint. So we're just. And it was funny, I was driving to work this morning. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this or not, but I'll say it anyway. I'm listening to XM radio, and I've got a country station on highway, I think it's called Highway Country or something like that. And who are they talking about but Denny Kellington, the assistant trainer from the Buffalo Bills. And I got to imagine that's a national station. So I shared that with Denny this morning, and he got a good kick out of that.
Thanks, Sean.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, I know you were in there when we were talking to Dane yesterday and wanted to ask you something similar of Damar for so long has seemed so good at expressing that, you know, he loves guys, his care for people. And so I wanted to get your perspective on that of when did you kind of notice that about him of he's always been good at kind of telling guys he cares for them and then having it in such a meaningful moment today?
Yeah, I mean, just getting to know, it's funny, before we came on here, I was texting Pat Narduzzi, who is Damar's college coach at University of Pittsburgh. And really, I'll give him a ton of credit. And for me, at least, obviously our scouts do a great job introducing us to players and their backgrounds and personalities and everything. Having said that, Pat Narduzzi and I have a relationship, and when he says certain things about a player, I have a great amount of trust and respect for Pat. So I know that they're true. And the person that, certainly the player that Pat was describing to me, and also then the player, but the person he was describing was very accurate in terms of who Damar is as a person. And I just can't thank him enough for him really beginning this relationship for me personally with Damar, I don't know, a year and a half ago at this point, roughly. So, but the relationship that he has with Dane is, as you saw, runs deep, and he has a similar relationship, obviously for not as long of a time with many in our building here. He's just an infectious young man with an infectious personality.
Thanks. And then just to better understand the FaceTime, were you holding the phone the whole time? I know you said it was short. Did it get passed around, or like, what was that when there's so many people so excited to talk to him? Just what was that like?
Yeah, no. So Matt Warzik, who's one of my assistants, he's been doing a great job all year. This year, he's carried the torch in a lot of ways for me, in particular this week. He set Zoom up with Tabani, our assistant trainer, where we actually put Damar, like we did Damar's dad and then the docs yesterday, on the big screen in there. So he was larger than life in there for us. So, yeah.
Thanks, Sean.
Sure.
Hi, Sean. I know this is, like an unprecedented situation. You guys have faced adversity all year. I mean, I think back to, what happened with Dawson earlier in the season.
Yeah.
And you were talking about all the conversations that you've had, even just this week, with other coaches and probably a bunch of other people. What have you learned about it, and what kind of, what do you feel about how, what does resiliency mean now after going through this?
Oh, man. I think I grew up a pretty resilient person. It's kind of my mindset. I know my parents would tell you that. I think growing up, I was more of the one that kept things, in. And, I know mental health was talked about yesterday, and that's the reason why I mentioned that. I would say that I was reminded this year, as you mentioned, like, what have I learned? I think more reminded how real, and this is probably a message for fans out there, how real these guys are. They're not robots. They're real people with real families, real issues in their personal lives. Obviously acknowledging the money that comes with jobs like this, and, grateful for that. Having said that, though, these guys are real people, and dealing with real life issues and challenges. And, when you get a chance, unfortunately, have a chance to go to the hospital with a player and you see his family there, another great reminder of these young men, in this case, football players, come from a mom and a dad that care for them very much.
And if I could, I know you guys are probably, I don't know if you've gotten this far down the line yet, but is there any plans? A lot of fans have been asking about if there's any plans to maybe honor the first responders on Sunday at the game.
Yeah, we've had conversations in our offices here, led by Ron Rakoya, mainly Derek, Brandon, myself, and Terry, primarily of making sure that things are done to honor all those involved in a tasteful and respectful manner, for sure.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, Sean. As you've continued day by day to get better news, how has that allowed you to kind of shift back to the football side of things, knowing that there's a game coming up Sunday?
Yeah, that has certainly been a kind of a release on the pressure valve a little bit. That's allowed more football to get into the channel. So the pipeline, and that's been good for us. The coaches, they had to start, Tuesday was a quote unquote day off for the players. So, but the coaches, and I'm not talking me, I'm talking the position and coordinators, really had to start Tuesday. And how difficult that was. I was not around them very much on Tuesday for the obvious reasons. But just so appreciate those guys and how hard that was to be able to start at least on Tuesday with what energy and focus they had to do that. And now that has, to your point, has grown each day as we've gotten A, better news, and B, a little bit of rest. And so I'm hoping to get a little bit involved in that today, honestly. And so we'll see where that goes. But yeah, they've done a phenomenal job.
And does facing New England, a team you're familiar with, does that also kind of take a little pressure off of, I know how regimented you are, but taking a little pressure off, maybe feeling okay with such a unique week of preparation from a football side of things to be prepared to face your opponent on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, that definitely, there's some familiarity there. I was thinking about it, John, and I'll just say this, that, there's never a good time, right? Never a good time. You face short weeks, and on top of it being the event that it was on a short week also. So it kind of makes you, I guess, respectfully chuckle a little bit about, what we've dealt with, and hey, why not make it a short week also on top of that? So, but yeah, there is familiarity there, and I should mention that Coach Belichick was one of the many that reached out, and certainly appreciate his thoughts and prayers as well.
Thanks, Sean.
Sure.
Coach, good morning. Wookie Hawkins, 104 Sports 1080, man. God bless you, Coach. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing better. Hope you are too. God bless you as well.
Yes, sir. And we understand, man, leaders lead by example. And yesterday I asked Mitch, more about your message, and he said just your vulnerability at this moment in time. Just care to talk about that, Coach, if you could.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate what he shared. Mitch was outstanding yesterday. It was the first time I got a chance to be in person and watch him articulate what he did, and what a tremendous, you talk about leadership, what a tremendous leader. Mitch was one of the main ones after the game that spoke up. And as you saw yesterday, he has a great ability to verbalize and articulate what's going on in his mind, and such a veteran presence for us. So I so appreciate him and his family. And yeah, I would just say, like, I think just more than anything, just being real with the guys, right? Being real with the team and everybody around the team. I think that's just the probably the simplest way to put it. Okay, it's not anything fancy. It's just being real.
Right, just being human, right, Coach?
Yeah.
As you said, it's just being human, and that we appreciate that. But it is a game to play on Sunday, and New England has a lot to play for as well. How do you get your team locked in at the task at hand?
Yeah, so we've been working on that. There's different kind of waves or hurdles that we need to continue to cross as we inch toward the game here. And it is coming fast. And so my number one thing for the players, as it always is, honestly, is their health and well-being. So getting them to a point mentally where they are, yes, prepared for the game, but also prepared to protect themselves. That's number one, and then also do the job that they're going to be called upon to do come game time. So we are working on that. We have a staff that helps us with that. Dr. Dez, who I didn't mention by name yesterday, has done a phenomenal job working with some of the players to help in that regard with the psychology of the game, if you will. And we have Len Vandenbos, Mark Carrier, Kelsey Harkins, our player development staff, who all have different roles here that have helped, as well as the other people who we brought in. So we'll continue in that effort all the way up until and including game time and beyond, probably. So we'll see how that goes.
Appreciate you, Coach. Good luck this week.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Coach, on that topic of focusing and concentrating and preparing for the game on Sunday, knowing that there's been that much significant improvement in Damar's health, how much easier is it for you, the coaching staff, and the players to concentrate on the task at hand, the New England Patriots, and having Damar Hamlin in the back of their minds?
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think a great example of that is Brandon, who's sitting a couple of rows away from me here. Just having Brandon back in the building. I mean, Brandon stayed behind, as I've mentioned, along with Nate Bresky, our head trainer, and having Brandon be able to fly home yesterday along with Nate just makes our ability to interact that much easier. I'm not jumping on the phone with Brandon and getting updates and yet still trying to coach the team. So all of that makes all the improvements of Damar make life so much easier to focus on, as you mentioned, the task at hand, and that being the New England Patriots.
Hey, Sean, this is kind of a two-part question. I was curious, why did you decide to stay and listen to what Dane and Mitch had to say? And then we asked the players yesterday what they've seen from you as a leader, but what have you seen from the captains and the leaders on this team in terms of being there for their teammates?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't normally stand and watch over somebody's shoulder while they're doing their press, in particular the players. So I just wanted to be there, not knowing how those guys were going to react emotionally. So I just wanted to be there for them. And really, that was it. I probably should have, there was a seat on the stairs I was going to go sit on, but I just figured I'd stand right there. So as far as the leaders, the captains in particular, and it was interesting, Elena, there was a few others that spoke up in the locker room in the minutes after we walked into the locker room that evening, and they weren't all captains. And so I'm extremely impressed by those, even though they don't have the C on their chest, in the way that they led as well and spoke up. Overall, the captains, led by Josh, Tremaine, Mitch, Micah, and you guys know the captain, Stefan. You saw what Stefan did after the game. He wouldn't be denied in terms of getting to that hospital. They've been phenomenal, and they're all in their own ways, whether by example, whether by voice, by support of their teammates, by listening. Like me, this is unprecedented, and there's no script for experience as much life as I have. So for them to be able to not only lead themselves first and foremost, but lead others has been a huge help to me and to us. And then just it's been admirable to watch.
Thanks, Sean.
Sure.
That's all the questions for today. Thanks, Coach.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Partially on her and the rest.
Morning, Bean. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
He's going to start with an opening statement, Kaylee.
Okay.
Are you ready?
There's somebody not muted in the background, I believe.
Okay, perfect. All right, let me, this is going to take just a minute, but there's a lot of people that did a lot of great things for Damar, and I think it would be unfair to not mention these people. A lot of heroes. You know, we look at sports, and you know, we all have heroes on the field, but there's so many people that save this young man's life, and I just want to make sure they get recognized. But first off, God is good. Prayer of this country and NFL fans and Bills Mafia has just been unbelievable, and I know that comes from Damar's parents as well. You know, Mario and Nina, and just being near them, you know, these last few days, they should put a handbook together of how to deal with, you know, life-threatening situation with your child. I was in awe just watching their strength through such difficult up and down moments. And man, it was a pleasure to be a part and see how they handled it. I don't believe I would have handled it with the same strength if that was my son. But the Bills medical team, I know that guys have been mentioned, you know, led by Nate Bresky. Denny's obviously trending on Twitter now, which is good for him. And Tabani's back there, and all those guys, our docs did a great job. You know, one person that probably hasn't been mentioned is Corey, one of our equipment guys who had to get there and get his face mask off so that they could work on him. And not easy when you see the situation, you know, Damar's in. The two doctors yesterday that did the Zoom and answered a lot of the medical questions, Dr. Bill Knight, Dr. Tim Pritz, their team, amazing. And I want to go through some of those people, starting, you know, when this happened on the field. The field doctors there from Cincinnati, Dr. Woods Curry, Dr. Jason McMullen, Dr. Robbie Paulson, Dr. Brett Betts, and John Bush. Those guys jumped in and were ready for the moment. And I'm so grateful, and our organization and Damar and everyone for them. The field paramedics there and ready to get him, you know, onto the ambulance and headed to the hospital. Rob Hersong, Dave Stigler, Mike Bacalsi, Brandon Terrell, and Brian Reed. Those guys, amazing work, you know, in such a stressful moment. And then when they got Damar to the ER, you know, the first people, you know, putting hands on him, Dr. Alex Saavedra and Dr. Brown and Finney. The trauma team, Dr. Val Sams and Dr. Eileen Donovan. And then the ICU people that a lot of these people, you know, we were interacting with when we went back there to visit Damar, from the time he was in there and we could first see him till, you know, I left yesterday. Dr. Betty Sway, she wants no credit, but she did a heck of a job. Claire Deglow, probably spent the most time with Claire. She was the day nurse. Unbelievable poise watching her work. Brianna Ruhlman, Caleb Boehner, and Molly Lincoln. So there's many others, but I'd be remiss and if you know any of these people, you're in Cincinnati, take care of them and thank them. You know, they are heroes. Roger Goodell, you know, Roger's in a tough spot. He's the commissioner of the league. He's got all sorts of things going on. He called every day, and I know he sent a text to Mario, but you know, he's got a lot going on. He literally called every day and has called, you know, texted with me today. So appreciate him, Troy Vincent and Donna Ponte. The Cincinnati Bengals, Mr. Brown, his organization, anything we needed, from hotel rooms to meals, they were just leading the way. Zach Taylor, I know Sean's talked about Zach, but Zach and Darren Simmons came over even before, while Sean was still there, waiting to see, you know, how Damar was going to do once we got him, you know, into the ER. And Zach's wife, Sarah, she came over and brought meals the first night, and just so authentic. It was just, you know, it was very touching. the city of Cincinnati, all sorts of people, prayers, sending things. Just what a great city. You never want something like this to happen, but a lot of love and respect for that town and that city and the support they've shown. Sean Smith and the officials, I thought they did a heck of a job in a critical moment of how to handle this situation. And then last but not least, I want to start with here, Sean McDermott, what a great job of leading our team back here, getting them home. And, it was a very tenuous moments, as we know, as Damar was trying to battle this through and a lot of unknowns and uncertainties. And just the vulnerability that Sean showed, working with our team, helping us get counselors here. And just, I went into the team meeting this morning. He's got this team rock solid. And, I'm biased, but through what we've been through in this guy deserves Coach of the Year for what he's done. Our coaches, our team leaders, Josh, Tremaine, all those guys, I've been checking in with some of them and through this process, and they're humans, and these are not gladiators or, as Sean mentioned earlier, robots. And this has been a tough ordeal, and I'm just so impressed and so appreciative of our team, our organization, and Terry Pagula's leadership. So I know that was long. I appreciate your patience, but it was very important for me to recognize all those people.
Brandon, through saying that, it seems like you've met so many people over the last couple of days. Could you explain what the last few days were like for you and why you felt it was needed and necessary to stay in Cincinnati with Damar?
Yeah, it's, it's real simple, Maddie. It's what would you want someone to do for your son? And I got two boys, and, Sean wanted to stay as well, in fairness to him, and we were trying to figure it out. But as we're dealing with this in minutes, trying to make these decisions, we decided it was, we are the leaders, and he needs to lead these coaches and this team and help these guys get through back here, because we don't know how long this is going to be. And we may have a game, which we do, to prepare for. And so we divided it up, and I said, let me stay here. Let me support here. We'll work this out. And that's why I love Sean. He's we were able to work this through, and he did a great job there. But it was a roller coaster, Maddie, but just seeing his parents and the strength that they shown through this time, and different friends and family that showed up, it was great to see and learn more about Damar. Obviously I knew who he was through the draft process, and then just getting to know him this last year and a half, but you learn so much more and you see why he is who he is by, spending time with Mario and Nina. It's just so impressed with the medical team too. Just these people, yes, they're medical people, but their bedside manner, their care, hugging us and seeing tears out of their eyes. There's going to be a huge party when Damar gets out of there, and that's the only part I'm sad that I'm not going to be able to see him walk out of there. But I'm going to be so thrilled when we get him back here.
What was it like to be there and see the support roll in from across the nation and across the world, and really see that GoFundMe number go up to well over 7 million now?
Man, it was, Tabani was keeping up with that, and just like, hey man, he's at 3-point this, he's at 4-point. When I was just like, and, we were laughing with his mom, you try to have some laughable moments in there. And we were laughing. She's like, man, he just wanted $2,500 for this thing. She's like, some of the toys he bought, there was always like some disagreements with which child gets this toy. And I was like, you're going to be passing out cars next year, not toys. And so it's going to be exciting to see how excited Damar is about what he can do, because that's who Damar is. And he's so selfless, and he's always got a smile. I know Josh mentioned that yesterday. The kid always has a smile on his face. And today in that team meeting, man, it was hair on the back of my neck stood up when he said, "I love you boys, man." And the room went nuts. It was just, it was awesome.
That's amazing. Thanks, Brandon.
Thanks, Maddie.
Hey, Brandon, John Worrell.
Hey, John.
I hope you've been getting some sleep. How uplifting was it? I mean, for having been there for, you know, those two first days, and then to know that he was awake and was gripping people's hands, to know that he had made that step in his recovery. For you to be there, how heartwarming was that, and I guess emotional?
Very emotional. You know, when anyone that's had loved ones in life-threatening situations, the docs explained it to us. They said it's going to be 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You know, so, and they're always giving you best case, worst case. So there's always ups and downs, and you know, that's where we wanted to just try and bond together with the family and help each other through it. But it was such positive news. You know, I would say 2 days ago, and then yesterday walk in there at 7 a.m. and Dr. Knight comes in and is like, you're not going to believe it. Like, he's responding to commands. He's given us, you know, he's still intubated, but he's given us, you know, signals with his hands, and he's nodding. And, you know, I wanted to go back there then. He's like, hey, we're going to talk through a few things where we're at. But we got back there around 8, Tabani and Nate and myself, and just able to hug him, and the grip strength that he had. You know, I told Mario, I said, I'm not a crier, but man, it was emotional, and a lot of grown men in there crying yesterday. But it's something I'll never forget.
And just one last thing, just as difficult and trying and then uplifting this week has been, I know you've probably had to have your GM hat on in dealing with the business of the NFL and this game. And I know a lot of this is about Damar, but just I just need to ask, were you the point person on dealing with Troy and the NFL on the game being canceled, and just what your thoughts are on just how this whole seating thing is coming out?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get involved with that part of it. You know, we basically just John left the game and just said, listen, we can't play. You guys have to decide what it is. They did keep me and Terry in the loop of some of the things that were being discussed, but we didn't really weigh into what our thoughts were. You know, for the most part, it was really just, these are some of the scenarios, and you know, I know what came out last night, but it still has to be voted on and approved. So we'll see where that goes today.
I perfectly understand. I had to ask the question, but all the best to you, and you know, just the news on Damar is so fantastic.
Yes, it is. Thank you, John.
Hey, Brandon, it's Bove. You were obviously closer to the situation than most anybody was. You, his family, and some other staff members. I think yesterday, the Zoom call with the doctors was probably when most of the outside world finally got peace of mind and knowing that he might be okay. Was there a moment for you where you had that moment of thinking, wow, he might get through this?
Yeah, I would say, you know, when I left the hospital, my days are running together, but, you know, they had to flip him over and, you know, into a prone position early around 5:30 or 6 the morning after it happened. So that would have been Tuesday morning. You know, when we left on Tuesday night, you know, they said, listen, he's handling this well, but the big thing will be when we flip him back. How does he handle that? And sometimes the way it was explained to me is you flip them for an hour, but they start to struggle again, and you got to flip them back onto prone. And if you can't get them to be able to lay back on their back, like I'm kind of sitting here, then there's other procedures that have to be done without getting too deep into the weeds. And so when they said later that day that, hey, he's handling this great, that is great news. And that tells us that he's out of the woods from, you know, the worst kind of scenario. And so you started to feel relief. Still not there yet, but like I said, from that point on, it just seems like things were trending up. And then yesterday morning, you walk in there and he's responding to commands. Was absolutely not what I thought I was going to hear. And it was just, it was definitely tears of joy.
I know you never draw it up this way, but your team has dealt with an unbelievable amount of adversity this past season, really start of the season and onward. Your focus this week was Damar, but what does it say about the rest of your group that they've been able to navigate that, get through this, and kind of, you know, can come out on the other end?
Yeah, Matt. I probably get emotional if I talk too much about it, but I'm so proud of our organization, our team, just so many people, the way we've dealt with so much this year. Definitely not the way you draw it up, but I don't know what's going to happen the rest of the season on the field. I really don't. This is a group of winners, and I will forever remember this team, this season, the moments of it. I'm still hopefully optimistic that we can make a run. But I don't know if there's ever a team I'll be more proud of than this for all that's been dealt. And we're still sitting here with all this at 12-3 and a chance to still do something. So we'll see what happens there. But I could talk for hours how proud I am.
I figured. Thanks, Brandon.
Thanks.
Hey, Brandon, it's Heather. I'm getting my hair done, so there's no reason for me to have my video on right now, so I apologize.
Good luck with your hair.
Yeah, no, thanks. Just Sean talks so much about, and you guys talk so much about the importance of mental health and having counselors and all that stuff. Just how important is it to have a leader like Sean in place when something like this happens, and the fact that he understands the importance of mental health and that players and everyone is dealing with that as well?
Yeah, I mean, one of Sean's greatest strengths is he's a great listener. And I think that's one of the leadership qualities that people leave out that is as important as any of them. And he listens, he looks, he learns, and, he's so vulnerable. You got to stand up there and be a rock, but sometimes you got to be a human. And you got to lead these men into battle. You got to, get them riled up and fired up at times, but you also have to, understand certain moments are very humanizing. And I think he's got that balance. And like I said earlier, find me a coach. And again, I know I'm biased, but find me a coach that could have this team at 12-3 with all we've dealt with this year. And that's a true testament to him. And I'm glad he's our head coach.
And then I guess just lastly, just how are you personally just doing through all of this?
Yeah, it's been tough. You want to be a rock for everybody, but definitely, some moments of tears, and it's tough, but I'm excited that we're where we're at.
Thanks, Brandon. I appreciate it.
You got it.
Matt, we're having trouble hearing you, so we're going to go to John.
Hey, Brandon. I was thinking almost 12, a year ago, 13 seconds was this big talk, and words like adversity and crossroads and those were kind of things that people thought would be a defining moment for this team. How does something like this redefine those types of words for you, this organization, and just really provide just a completely unique perspective and different perspective on really what a result of a football game means?
Yeah, I mean, the game of life, John, we know is way more important. We get wrapped up into teams and seasons and leagues, and it's natural. It's fun. It's fun to banter and go against, I got good friends on other teams. It's good to be able to beat their butts. But what was really cool this week is just seeing all the love and support from all the various GMs, coaches, players that I know around the league. And I know Sean and all our people got that. And I think it just shows a great human side to not only this league, but to all the people in our country. And like I said, and what you asked, 13 seconds means nothing. This is what it's truly about: building teams, building men, leading. And like I said, I know fourth down decisions, get questioned and things like that. Zach Taylor in Cincinnati, that's a fortunate franchise to have that guy as their head coach. I'm sure I've never worked with Zach. I do know him. I'm sure he's a great X's and O's play caller, and you can see that. But he's a hell of a leader, and he showed that as well in coming to the right decision the other night in a moment that his team was leading, and I'm sure they wanted to win that game just as bad as we did, And I don't know that a lot of people would have handled that the way he did. And again, back to Sean, it's been said over and over, but we're very fortunate here in Buffalo to have him.
And then a football game on Sunday. What is your vision, your feeling for what that moment is going to be, that afternoon is going to be, that small sliver of 3 hours or so after all of this past week?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a celebration of life and an ongoing life, and just a celebration that, I mean, this is going to not only be a celebration in Buffalo, but the whole country, and I'm sure people internationally have watched this situation. And so I think it's going to be a great seat if you got a ticket to come here and to just be a part of this atmosphere. Hair on the hair on the back of my neck standing up right now thinking about it, John. But it's going to be unique, and I'm excited to see it. It will be a challenge for our team to be able to manage the emotions. There's going to be tears out there, and that will be probably the biggest challenge. More of the challenge than the X's and O's piece of it is just being able to go through that, and just seeing our fans. And I know there's going to be a lot of 3 numbers out there, and I'm excited to see it. It's going to be a cool deal. And the only thing better is if Damar was out of there by then. I don't know that would happen, but anyway, we're excited for Sunday.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thanks, John.
Hey, Brandon, it's good to hear from you. I wanted to follow up some on what you were saying about Sean and his vulnerability, which I think is so key in helping this team and processing what's been going on with Damar right now. When he talked about it, he was saying he was not always like that when he was a kid. Like, he used to bottle things up a bit more. And just how long you've known him, I was wondering, is that something you've seen him grow into? Did he kind of change his perspective on that a bit before you knew him, or just have you seen him evolve in that in your time of knowing him?
Yeah, I think he's definitely evolved. I think he's, I think that's what's great about him. He's always, Sean talks about, and it's one of our mantras here, is the growth mindset and just learning. And yeah, you get these jobs, and in his case, you get a head coaching job probably because you were, a really good offensive or defensive coach, and he's, he was a very good defensive coordinator. But there's way more to his job, just like mine from a scouting standpoint, is leadership and understanding all what that entails, and who are you leading and what do they need. And just I think him understanding that, like I said earlier, yes, you have to lead them, and you got to get them to be ready for a battle on the field, which is toughness and all these things, but not show pain, and I'm going to fight through everything. But sometimes just, hugging a grown man and letting tears come down from your face, that can sometimes get even more respect. And I think Sean has that balance now more than ever.
And then on Damar, you mentioned those moments with his mom of kind of the lighter sides of things, which you need to make it through all these really tough days, just on her with the toy drive that he can buy cars now. Were there any other moments that kind of stood out to you? I'm sure it's all a blur, but just of, that you go through all these emotions of that with his parents in particular.
Yeah, the one thing that stood out, and I haven't even told Sean about it yet, but his little brother, Damar, who unfortunately, because of his age, if the rule in the hospital due to flu and RSV, they don't allow you in an IC unit to I don't even think you can come in the whole hospital, maybe if you're under 14 years. So he was unable to be there. And we were talking about him and just how, I was asking him, how's he doing? Because that's his big brother. And, she was telling me 2 things. One, she was telling me that he's his biggest critic. Like, he calls him on the phone after the game, telling him, you did this wrong, you got to do this better, and kind of just breaking down the game. And I'm like, how old is he? He's like, he's 7. And I'm like, oh, that's amazing. He's got a future scout or a future coach. But then his dad brought over a video. He was talking about him wrestling, and he's showing him wrestling. He's 7, wrestling like a 9-year-old. And, he flipped this kid around and just showed that competitive dog, that competitive edge. And it was cool. It was cool to see Damar, because I don't know Damar yet, but we definitely were able to laugh and smile at various things. And his dad, one other thing, he got a lot of swelling in his lip when he was prone, you get the fluids coming down to your face. And so a lot of things swell. And his dad came back there and said, he looks like Professor Clump right now from the Nutty Professor. So we had some good laughs.
Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate it.
Got it.
Brandon Beane, Mookie Hawkins, 1 Sports 1080, man. God bless you.
Thank you, Mookie. Good to see you, buddy.
Yes, sir. How important was it for you to be there with Damar's family? And care to talk about the day nurse and her role? How instrumental was she?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's really not about me. It was more just I was only doing what I would want someone to do for my son, and that's really what it was. But the day nurse, Claire, got to know her the most. And again, I don't want to just single her out, but she is. I don't know how old Claire is, but she's a rock star, vibrant. And she just kept saying, "This is why I love my job." Yesterday, when he was waking up, and we were in there one day, and I was like, "Claire, I'm sorry, just tell us." She's like doing all sorts of stuff, and I was just really impressed. And I was like, "Claire, just tell us to leave if we're in your way." And she's had such patience about her, and she even said, she told me yesterday, she said, "I'm not supposed to work. What's today?" She said, "I'm not supposed to work tomorrow." She's like, "But the way he's trending, I got to come in, and I can't wait to get to know him." Because we just kept telling her, "You're going to love this kid. Like he's just so wonderful to be around." And it's just to not go in there and be a robot as a nurse or a doctor is probably not always easy to do. And just her showing, she was just so excited to see the progress he had made, and she'll be even more excited when he gets out of there.
Absolutely, Coach. And just to follow up what Catherine was saying, how therapeutic was it for the players, for Coach to show that vulnerability at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think the guys have, you heard that from Mitch and Dane and Josh, and I'm sure more of them will say it. I think Sean has a great pulse of the team, and he knows what they need. He knows when they need a kick in the butt, and he also knows when they need a hug, and that's what's special about him.
Appreciate your time. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Mookie.
Brendan, you talked about the challenge of keeping emotions in check for Sunday's game. How do you go about helping the players focus on the game come 1 o'clock on Sunday afternoon?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where Dr. Des and her crew and her skills, giving these guys, some tools to kind of get yourself recalibrated and focused that you're about to go into, cross the line into an NFL game and being ready and, not going ups and downs and just kind of being steady. And Sean's got a plan to kind of tomorrow go through some of the things that they will expect to see out there. But, that you can't prepare for everything. You're not going to know what all the fans are planning to do and some of the various emotions you'll see there. But just trying to give them as many tools and tips because there's going to be emotions flowing pregame to kind of recalibrate when it's time to, kick the ball off.
What are some of the tools that you're at liberty to share that the team has?
Well, I'm not a clinician, but Dr. Des, she does it sometimes on one side of the ball. She meets with people individually. She's got some various strategies that she goes through, and I don't know them all per se.
Hey, Brandon, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. I'm curious, we've spent a lot of time from the outside trying to get to know Damar. When did you think that Damar Hamlin should be a Buffalo Bill?
Man, Sean was talking earlier about Coach Narduzzi, and there's times where Sean may know a coach. In this case, I don't know Coach Narduzzi personally, but Sean know him, and so sometimes pre-draft, I'll say, "Hey, can you check on this player? Call this coach." And so a lot of times I'll sit in there, we'll get him on the phone and speaker, and he'll say, "Hey, Coach, I got my GM in here, and we want to ask you about a few of your players." And Coach just said, he said, "Listen, you guys evaluate the players however on our team." But when he was going through, they had 5 or 6 guys coming out that year. he's like the steadiest, the steadiest guy that you're going to find and a true high character leader is Damar Hamlin, wherever you have. They don't necessarily know where you rate him. So that was one of the things that stood out when you hear the coach of, a team saying, this guy he's got it, and he's got the it factor, the want to, and wherever his skill set is, what you heard is he's going to reach that and then some. And those are the types of players that you love to get, especially later than draft. So, he's sitting there. We talked about him around earlier, and he was still sitting there in the sixth and turned it in. And last year played more of a reserve role, but he worked so hard this year. I was talking with his dad. He worked so hard this offseason to prepare himself, and he's been a sponge with Micah and Jordan. And, we were talking about, he had a little bit of a blessing that this offseason, Jordan and Micah in training camp both had some injuries. So he got to get reps with the ones, and, he didn't expect to be starting by game 3, but, unfortunately Micah went down, and I think he's done a great job of filling that in and not leaving a true void without Micah.
And Brandon, if I could just get back to Sean for a second. He's helping to lead the organization, right? And he's helping to help the players with their own feelings and their own health. Who's helping Sean? Because he's carrying a heavy burden and a heavy weight. And I think as we saw him yesterday at the press conference, he looked pretty worn down, a little bit better today, clearly, right? Because of the news, but who helps Sean?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's for everyone here, and to try and, again, I mentioned we have Dr. Dez and some various people. Leslie Frazier is a good, mentor. And I know Sean has reached out to some other coaches that have dealt with various things. And I think, that's what a good team of people, or a good family, and family is probably the better word, but, we all want to win. We all work hard. We're all competitive. Sometimes we go at it, but we have a deep love for each other. And I think we know when we need to put our arm around someone. And so I think we're all making sure that we're looking out for each other.
Thank you, Brandon, very much.
Thanks, Mike.
Hi, Brandon. Alex Brasky with the Batavia Daily News. The NFL just sent an email revealing plans for all 32 teams to honor Damar this week, including pregame moment of support, field painting, pregame shirts, and then your team will be wearing 3 jersey patches. Can you just speak about that news and just the overwhelming support from the league, and maybe if there's any additional plans from your team to show support for Damar coming Sunday?
Yeah, Alex, I think it's, as I mentioned earlier, it says a lot about our league that we're all competitive and we're all trying to win every single thing. We're trying to win the draft. We're trying to win games, and ultimately trying to win a championship, fighting against each other. But this week, I mean, every team changed their logo, on their social media page to pray for Damar. I don't think I've ever seen that. And we go to battle, but in the end, life is the number one battle. And to see that unity from players, coaches, GMs, owners, fans is unheard of. But I think it's a good light. It sheds a great light on the NFL, that the NFL is truly a family. And, we had people from the Cincinnati NFLPA, former players, come up to the hospital and just what do you need? Like, I know you got the foundation. Do you guys need us to go buy you some clothes? Does the family need this? Just so many people from so many different, avenues. And it's cool to see. As far as this weekend, we're working on things. We definitely have the patch and, try and honor, some of the people that help, keep Damar alive in their roles. So we do have some various things. It's not, we're still talking through exactly the run of show, but I think it's going to be a nice deal.
Now, how about the gathering of fans outside the hospital? Did you have any perspective on that from where you were in the hospital? Were you guys able to look down on them or any interaction with any of them there at the hospital, and your impressions of that?
Yeah, I thought it was great, because it was not only Bills fans, it was Bengals fans and true football fans. And just, you saw the care for them. I did not personally interact with them, just my sole focus. My job was to support Damar's family and get information from the docs and just try and help, lead point with some of that. So I did not interact with him, but very appreciative, and I know the family was too.
Thanks for your time and thanks for your service to the team and the community.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate you.
Hey, Brandon. I was curious, you mentioned obviously spending time with Damar's parents and getting to know more about Damir and them and all of that. I was curious, and maybe the answer to this is no, but did you learn anything about Damar this week that maybe you didn't know just from talking to his family and all of that?
I mean, not necessarily anything like crazy that I didn't know, but just more about him. And we talked about his foundation and how important that was. And, you know, again, like I said, he was just trying to find $2,500. And, you know, just some of his friends came up. So we had some laughs. One of them transferred from Pitt, you know, was playing at Western Michigan. And it was just, you know, met his girlfriend and just got to meet various people and you know, hear some things about Damar. You know, nothing crazy that I didn't know, but it was just different things would come up at different times, and it was really, you feel like you get to know someone better when you're around their family and friends.
Definitely. And then I was curious just for you, obviously during the grind of a season, you don't really take time to kind of be in one place like that, sitting and being there to support, you know, Damar and his family. What was, I guess, this week, what was it like for you to, you know, pause the season and kind of take the time to, you know, this situation that you can't be prepared for? Just what was it like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I should thank, you know, Brian Gaine and Kevin Megank and Terrence Gray and Malik Boyd and some of the leaders here on, you know, on the football staff that kind of helped run point on some things that I would normally need to run point on. And that helped me to just be able to, you know, focus my time and energy there. So I felt that's why what's what you do. You try and find as many good people to run, you know, run whatever you need to be run. And I think getting back here, you know, late yesterday and coming here this morning, and meeting with some of the staff, they did a great job, and that helped take the pressure off of me.
Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Elaine.
Brandon, Dave Naylor from TSN. Can you give, I know you've been in Cincinnati this week, but do you have a sense of what degree difference in terms of preparation your team will be going into this game on Sunday compared to if you had, I know it was already a short week, and then there's all the responsibilities that everybody had on top of that. How different is it compared if this had just been a normal week?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been way different. And, you know, the first day back in here was more about, you know, checking on people and having them meet with psychologists and just having meetings, not about football, but about Damar and how are you doing, player X or coach X or staff member. You know, everyone saw, you know, how that went down on the field the other night. And so you can't unsee what you saw. And the first thing we needed to do was deal with those emotions, and people deal with them in all sorts of different ways. And when you got 60 plus players and staff, that's a lot of people that are going to deal with this in a different way. And some are still dealing with it, but it's just trying to reintroduce football in very small samples. And, you know, I think Damar's news yesterday really, you know, got our team. You know, I was not here for practice, but I heard that practice was really good, all things considered. And, you know, just seeing the guys in the team meeting this morning being so fired up. It's kind of like cramming for an exam that you probably waited to the last minute for. I think that's what we're trying to do right now. And these guys are pros. They'll be ready on Sunday.
To that point about, you know, all the attention of making sure every member of your staff, coach, player, otherwise, was, you know, was processing as well as possible. It seems like a very enlightened approach, you know, right from the reason the game was canceled because of the concern for the players' mental well health to the way you guys handle this. As somebody who's been around the NFL as a while, I mean, does this feel like all the talk about mental health that maybe began, you know, 2 decades ago and applying it to professional sports, that this was kind of the fruition of a lot of the understanding and the teachings that's gone on in the last 2 decades?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think, you know, mental health I've been in the NFL since 1998. Mental health was not something talked about, at least the first decade I was in the league. And even when it started getting talked about, there was a little bit of kind of pushing it away a little bit, like we're football players and we're coaches and we're whatever. We don't need that. But I think what we've found out, the more we've opened our eyes to it, that and we talked about it earlier, these are humans, these players, these coaches, and the best thing you can do for them is let them be a human and not try and internalize everything. I think that makes them better people, and ultimately it will make them be a better player if they can deal with things properly, and that's what we've tried to do.
Thank you very much for your time today.
Appreciate you.
I'll be able to see it. Yeah. That's all the questions for today. Thanks, Bean.
Okay, thank you.